Now you're all very welcome to the Racing Room. It's me, Ronan Groom, hosting with the usuals, Anthony Kaminskis, Tony Calvin, and Harry Stewart Moore. This is the budget special, budget in capital letters. All the talking stopped momentarily on Wednesday morning, only to kickstart again tenfold after various sectors of both gambling and racing industries had digested the news from the budget, that of Rachel Reeves' announcement. The nuts and bolts of that I'll go through momentarily, but put simply, as we approach the season of giving, it appears that betting operators are going to have to give a lot more in the new year. As it happened this week, recording a podcast on Monday was going to be a little tricky for various reasons. So with the budget happening and everyone available today, Friday, it made sense for us to kick on here. But before we get into it, I just want to give special mention to a special online silent auction which has gone live, with the proceeds going to the Hunt Family Fund. This is a memory of the family of BBC racing commentator John Hunt and his daughter Amy. So that silent auction went live on Wednesday and will end on Thursday, the 11th of December. You can find all the details of that if you just Google Hunt Family Fund, and it'll bring you to all various news stories and what's you can bid on there. So I urge anyone to have a look at that. I'll bring the lads in now, and I know there's a pretty good chance you, the listener, will have a main gauge of what's happened on Wednesday. It's probably been ingrained into your head, but just to read you out a few of the main bullet points before we get stuck into it. So remote gaming duty, which covers online casino games, has been hiked to 40% from 21% from April next year. For general betting duty, in betting shops, it will remain at 15%, which will also be the rate for the bets placed online on horse racing. However, from April 2027, online GBD on other sports such as football will increase to 25%. Machine games duty, which is tax paid by bookmakers on in-shop betting terminals, had been expected to rise but was left unchanged. And just before we do start as well, we had a bit of confusion around exactly how everything works with the tax. And just bring in a tweet here and bring you in, AK, to clarify the situation with regards to the 40% tax that goes on casinos. So tweet by Richard Garvin, who said the following: a bit of tax, question mark. I'm convinced that people think they're taxing 40% of profits. They're not. They're taxing 40% of gross gaming revenues before costs. It makes running a UK online casino barely a break-even operation. So will you just come in there maybe and clarify exactly how this tax will work and what it is?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think there's a lot of people putting their head up the parapet, and they just don't understand the economics of this debate, I suppose. You've got 100 quid if a bookmaker wins 100 quid on casino, the 40% tax is 40% of that 100 quid essentially. So that's 40 quid goes to the government. But from a bookmaking point of view, from the operation of that casino, 30% of that might go to affiliates. Of that 100 quid, 30% might go to affiliates who've brought traffic to your site. There's a plethora of other costs essentially. What else would you have? Your affordability checks, your banking transactions. Absolutely, you're talking single digits on anything won essentially now on casino. It's absolutely turned the ecosystem upside down. It might make casino barely profitable in the legal market. I think it will still be slightly profitable, but it is the returns essentially on casino that have been funding a good part of the ecosystem, and I think racing's about to understand that it's going to be one of the first affected. I think a lot of people just think you win 100 quid and 40% goes in tax, and the bookie's keeping 60. That 60 is a single digit number now.
And it's important, isn't it, AK, to point out that once you then take your costs off and you find your net profit, that's then subject to corporation tax like everyone else.
100%. Like even after that, essentially, you're still paying corp tax on that in the UK. If you're based in the UK, we obviously had the Sky Bet discussion previously, but somebody can tell me what the UK rate is. Is it 25%? Is it? Ireland is 12.5%. It's just the 40% is just off the top line number of what you win off customers. Yeah. There's an unbelievable amount of other transactions, from banking to compliance to your customer service teams. TransUnion, a company we pay to do affordability checks and checks on customers at sign up essentially. Soft checks in the background, like that bookmakers aren't winning 60% of. They don't get the rest of it. It's going to be a single digit number, of which VAT obviously is another thing that's probably part of the Sky Bet discussion previously. And then what's left is a single digit number on that one vertical that you would have to then pay corporation tax on, actually, to even realize any of that money. It's just, and like I say, that was just a huge part of the ecosystem, propping up stuff that isn't profitable, of which horse racing is one. And when you strip that down to what it has been now stripped down, it's absolutely monumental. And the people that are left, I think there'll be plenty of bookmakers that go. You're talking about consumer choice. I think that'll be bad for consumers. I think you saw some larger group share prices rising who've got decent cash piles because they'll probably get a larger percentage of a smaller market, essentially. I think that's what will happen.
Yeah, we would definitely get in and tease that out of the potential consequences down the line. Before we get in, we've loads of ways to approach this and loads of questions to take. But before we get into it, we might just do a kind of quick fire section on the winners and losers for each stakeholder. So I'll try and keep you to quick as you can here, kind of one to two sentences. We'll go in the order of AK, Harry, and Tony. So I'll shout out a stakeholder. You come in, AK, and then you follow Harry and Tony from there. So let's start with winners and losers. Betting shops, AK.
Relative winners, actual losers. I expect betting shops to decrease 10% in the next year or two. Probably in the next year. I think you'll lose 500 or 600 betting shops on the back of this. Sorry, I know it's quick fire. I see no reason to open a betting shop and keep one open that's even making a small amount of money on the back of this.
I think, like AK, it's obviously relative winner when you look at the tax burden that's now increasing on other forms. I think the difficulty for betting shops is that you can't look at this in isolation. There are all sorts of other problems, one of which is affordability checks. That's the context in which this is happening. I think that it is going to remain, at least, very difficult to operate a betting shop. Time will tell as to whether. I suppose the answer is, how much damage is this casino going to do to online business? And until we really know that, I'm not really sure that we fully understand quite how attractive LBOs are going to be, but it doesn't feel great.
I'd go winners in this, but again, it's a qualified winner because we've just heard this week that the racing partnership, for example, are charging bookmakers 22 grand to show their product. So in isolation, they're winners, but it's far more nuanced than that.
Yeah, just a summary, just for myself, I think the transfer of the business online doesn't go back to retail; it just goes offshore. Doesn't make retail anymore.
Well, it might not go back to retail, but capital investment might have to, because let's say, for example, the casino business just collapses altogether. Their options are to try and do something with LBO. I know that's an extreme example, or to not try and do anything.
I don't think that'll happen. I don't think you push the square peg into the round hole. It's a bygone age. It's analog in a digital world. Betting shops.
Move on, gents. BHA. AK, take it away there.
BHA has not been a winner for years in anything. BHA is not a winner. You might think it's one.
Well, let's stick to the budget as such, or what?
And to short fire.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the BHA thinks. Does he think it's won? It's going to be pretty evident to it soon enough that it's lost. I don't know. It's not won anyway. It's not won anything.
This is a very difficult question, and not one that lends itself to a short fire, in my view. I think that the racing didn't have much of an option in the. I do not accept for a second, and I've read several times today on Twitter people saying that racing campaigning for a carve out is the reason, essentially, that gambling, remote gaming duty has gone up from 21% to 40%. That is harebrained in thinking. That's just not right. I think that at a certain point, that racing had to try and look after itself. I think it would be worse for racing if the taxes on racing had gone up in the same way that they have on everything else, obviously.
I don't think that's the case, by the way. I think if the
Of course
tax
it is. Of course that's the case. How could you
it's
possibly
not,
say they would be in a better position if they'd gone up to 40% than the
because it's going to get
25%?
stripped massively now. And if it would have been
But that's
harmless,
happening anyway, because you say it's the casino that funds them. So that's happening anyway.
well, yeah, but
40% of the casino.
it wouldn't have been as dramatic as what it's going to be.
No, so you think that racing stance is what has increased remote
Racing
gaming
should have,
duty to
my
40%?
opinion is racing should have understood its place in the ecosystem and understood what had happened to it. It still doesn't understand now, and it's already happened. So it's gonna have to understand. It'll understand soon enough, I think, and it'll be post
So
April.
I think what it should have done is done this years ago. I think it should have seen a very long time ago that it was going to become a product. What this has really revealed is that the gambling industry is much more the gaming industry than anyone really accepted for quite a long time. And I think that horse racing was very happy to get that cheap cash that was floating around in the market, the gambling market, as a result of casinos. I can see why operators are annoyed by it, because when it saw the writing on the wall and saw that actually casino operators were going to get hammered, it decided to jump ship and plough its own furrow. Where I think that gambling has a right to be irritated with it is that for far too long, it was very happy to benefit from being parasitic on casino betting, as a result of which it allowed itself to become a flabby and bad product in many ways.
I don't agree with
One winner.
that.
I would say the BHA have to be viewed as short-term winners. They had to go out and make their own case. They couldn't have made it, in my opinion, in conjunction with bookmakers. Now, longer term, that could come to bite them, and it could well be short term come to bite them rather than long term. So I just think they did what they had to do. The devil will be in the detail. What they said to their lobbying firm, Strand Partners, what they told them to tell government. Now, if it transpires, they told them to kind of like do what you want with casino, but leave us alone, then that is a pretty toxic argument. We'll never get to find that. But what I do think from the BHA is, I think they would have been horrified by the jump from 21 to 40%. I don't think they would have been bargaining for that level of increase, and obviously that's just caused massive friction. So going in the short term, I think they did what they had to do. Longer term, it could well come to bite them, their lack of cooperation with the bookmaking industry. You've got to remember as well, they didn't even tell the bookmaking industry about that strike day either. So cooperation going forward is going to be very, very difficult with the bookmaking industry.
Okay. The fire's going to have to be a lot more quick from here on. So we'll be
That's
here
my
all
fault.
day. That's all right. Well, let's try and do a bit more simpler ones as we go. Needless to say, AK the black market, big winners here.
Huge. Yeah. If yeah, just an unbelievably huge winner. Massive. Great news for them.
It is a big winner. There is a problem with bookmakers running that as their main argument for a very long time as to why taxation shouldn't go up, because it's not really their problem, it's society's problem, the black market. The other thing I'd say about Big Core is it's not done very much itself to do anything about the black market if it's quite the threat that it makes out. So it's an argument which can be undermined by basically being self-evidently self-interest, but it also happens to be true that the black market is very obviously going to benefit hugely from this.
Yeah, nothing to add there.
The on-course market, AK?
On-course market, stay the same.
I don't have a view on that one, Ronan.
Yeah.
I think by definition, I think they're going to have to. If margins do get squeezed on horse racing, then it's got to make the on-course market more attractive. Now, we're always told that, the on-course market will facilitate long-term winners in cash betting and on-course betting. So if the margins are squeezed to that degree that the on-course market is far more attractive, then even though there's cost involved of going racing, then I think the on-course market will have to be a marginal winner here.
I think the complication for this is that some of these interests are so co-aligned with each other. It's hard to see them in isolation. I mean, it's hard to treat a lot of operators as pure on-course operators, for example, when they, and quite what their online business, what effect that might have on their overall capital expenditure and that kind of thing.
Indeed. Affiliates, AK, likes of Racing Post, that sort of thing.
A huge loser. Affiliate deals will have to come down. It's unsustainable at present with those specific numbers from April, and then from 2027 onwards for sports. The affiliate space will contract. It's relatively small anyway. There's a few bigger groups and then a couple of smaller operators. It's not an unbelievably, you have to really go down into the absolute dregs if you want to expand an affiliate program. A big loser, I think. I certainly wouldn't have wanted to pay 165 million quid for an odds checker or something like that, given this news. I think they're going to be in for a big shock. The whole affiliate industry, of which the Racing Post is, who are quite happy to campaign for the racing tax as their main thing. I think that might bite.
I agree that they are regulated affiliates are going to be a loser, and I think that one of the things we might see from this is an increase in people trying to direct people towards the black market in return for money, basically.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think the Racing Post, again, like the BHA, arguably took a very short-sighted approach to the AXE the Racing tax campaign. Now, if they'd have thought that through, they would have seen potential pitfalls. And as with my comments on the BHA, I think the Racing Post would have been absolutely horrified by the hike to 40%. It's a long way back now.
Indeed. Punters, AK, in general, I guess you can do it from the standard punter to the problem punter to the bigger punter. You can take it all there.
Yeah, you can take it in three cohorts if you want. The professional punter, the for want of a word, people say smart punter. I say more price sensitive punter myself. Big trouble in the legal market. It's going to be very, very hard to margin. If you thought marginal accounts were being closed too haphazardly of late, I think you're going to see a lot more of that. General punters, I think it's going to be poor for them because margins are going to increase, RTPs are going to decrease, the value on offer in the legal market is going to decrease. Black market, obviously, we know the hazards of moving over there as well. I can't see that being a win in any way for those customers. And then problem gamblers, obviously, just horrific. I think it's just bad all around for punters. And it's not, we're surviving, or everyone's going to be surviving in a very, very suboptimal legal market for the entrants that survive it, essentially.
I think that I completely agree that it's very problematic for punters, healthy and otherwise, certainly in the long term, short term, as it were. I've said for a very long time that I think that racing piggybacking on casino betting was a strategic mistake because I don't have any moral problems with casino betting at all, but I've thought for a very long time that it is going to come under significant pressure from society, essentially, in terms of how it was going to be controlled. I think we are beginning to see the beginning of that. I don't think this is the end of it. My prediction is that we will see casino betting, regulated casino betting, disappear almost completely at some point. That's essentially a black swan event, and then who knows thereafter. So
that means regulated sports betting disappears as well.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
And I think that is what
But it's the black. Well, my point is that then becomes a black swan event, after which it's like it's like the Big Bang. Who knows what happens thereafter? So all I'm saying is, short term, I completely agree with you. But I think that what we are seeing is the product that really paid for everything is starting to die.
I think punters will is yet to be seen what kind of this does to margins. It won't be good news. I mean, this morning there was a 5-1 fight in fifth market for tomorrow, and Flutter were betting up to 132% on it. So if that's a mark of things to come, then God help us. From a wider point of view, I think the pressure on some independents going to the wall will shrink the market, and when you shrink the market further, then obviously choice goes, and you can get the big firms just squeezing the margins as much as they've only got, if there's only 3 or 4 viable alternatives elsewhere. So yeah, I think punters are going to get shafted one way or the other.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's gonna stifle everything. It stifles innovation. It stifles new entrants. It shrinks the market from an operator or a group. What your options are here for opening a new account, etc. Yeah, it's not good. It's not good.
We'll do one more, obviously, probably a quite obvious winner, but just to bring them in and talk about the SMF, the Social American Foundation, and I guess those who are campaigning for this, I suppose, of the be big winners out of this, AK.
Big winners. With a nothing case, have got the result they wanted essentially. So from a campaign perspective, you'd have to respect them. They will, and I think it's of benefit for everyone to hold them to account for the consequences that they achieve here, not just for regulated market, but for the problem gamblers that are sent to the abyss essentially as well. We should be documenting that.
Obviously, they're winners. They got what they wanted. I think, as I say, and I've thought for some time, I don't say it's the right thing. I think this was coming, whether they did eventually, whether they were involved or these particular individuals were involved or not.
Yeah, they're the winners here. They've got a big PR win. My worry is that they've got to taste of real blood now. So they're not going to leave it here, are they? As we'll come on to some questions that we're asking ourselves. But the comment by Thomas Saville and James has always suggested they've got a taste to get involved.
Yeah, we'll come on to that in due course. Let's get into those questions now, and talk about the bookmakers in general and what this means. But I guess what the way to move on the conversation is what's going to happen next, and we're kind of asking here, what do bookmakers now walk the walk after talking the talk, and duly increase betting margins on racing and make massive cuts everywhere. So this comes kind of, I think Grania Hurst from the BGC Council kind of set the tone of, I guess, fighting talk. I don't know if that was too strong a word, but she was on Nick Luck and said there's obviously devastating impact, tens of thousands in the industry. I think she labelled it an act of vandalism against the industry, and said the obvious there. Would said it was an early Christmas present for the black market, where staking will double, and punters can now expect worse odds, worse offers, just a generally worse off product. So what happens next, aka that we were obviously hearing lots of bookmakers are saying we're going to cut sponsorship, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to spend less on horse racing, etc. Is that inevitable?
I think it's absolutely inevitable. I think it'll start before April, way before April. Tony referenced the overend in the fighting fifth there from Flutter Brands tomorrow. I think it's going to become more par for the course. From my perspective, and I try and qualify this with context, our prices will have to get slightly worse, but the intention would be to still be one of the better prices in the market, essentially. So the whole market is going to increase overends, decrease value. We are going to have to do that too, but we'll be at the top end of that spectrum as we are now at the current tax rate, essentially, from a price perspective. So we'll still have some of the best prices around, but they just won't be as good as they were at the present day. They just won't be as good as that in the summer, essentially. There'll still be some of the best around, but the overall market is going to stick up overends, essentially. So that's essentially what's going to happen. People get very personal about certain stuff, and people either agree with me on some stuff, don't agree with me on some stuff, might despise me, might like me and what I say. neither buy the buy. But from what I can see, every bookmaker is coming to the same conclusion independently of each other. People
That they
might
don't like tax.
pardon?
That they don't like being taxed. I mean, that's the problem in this to an extent, is it is all bookmakers. That's one of the huge difficulties that the market has had for a very long time, is that no one outside of bookmaking is talking about these taxes. It is only bookmakers talking about it because they have. I don't suggest for a moment it would be easy to try and get some kind of public sympathy, but there's none. There's
Nobody's
absolutely
asking for
none.
sympathy. Nobody's asking for sympathy, Harry.
Yeah.
We're just detailing what's
No, no, I
happened.
don't mean sympathy. I don't mean sympathy for what's happened. I mean are feeling sympathetic towards the industry, the
We just have
gambling
to take less
and the
prices,
industry
don't we?
which might
I
create.
know, it's unrepresentative, but there was a YouGov poll, and the most popular
Yeah, I
decision
saw it.
in the budget from 82% of people was bookmakers getting taxed more.
Yeah,
Now that's the kind of easy win
And
that
that's
the government
fine, but you
took.
just live with the consequences of it, and it's just worse value and more problem gambling and more black market gambling and maybe a reduction in yield anyway. That's what I'm neutral to anybody's opinions on it. I'm just telling you what's going to happen. That's all I'm interested in. And I think I've
yeah,
been right about that so far. And I think I'll be right about it again in 6 months and 12 months. This is what is going to happen. You can take that neutrally. You can be annoyed by it. You can recognize it. I don't particularly care. But I'm just telling you what's going to happen. That's my job, essentially. Predict what's going to happen.
And if this obviously transpires or whatever, and it seems like it will, Tony, what does this mean for horse racing? We should have probably dealt with this in the quickfire section, but I wanted to give you a bit more time or a bit more to kind of tease this out. But what are we thinking this means for horse racing in a nutshell?
Well, as we've kind of outlined here, it's bad news. I mean, I think, like I said, the BHA did what they had to do, but the consequences of the hike to 40%, I'm guessing, is something that they didn't bargain for, and because that's so extreme, then everything kind of like begins to fall apart after that, isn't it? I mean, it's interesting. I mean, the reason why we outline the fact is it's not just 40%, it's a hell of a lot more than that. It's possibly 90+%. And that's a misconception that we've done well to kind of like to clear up, because everyone just thinks, oh, win £1 million, they give the
yeah.
government 400 grand, and they still got 600 grand for themselves. I mean, they just said, well, I've got no sympathy with that. I mean, it's I see that is something that we had to clear up. I mean, there's no real positive for horse racing here. I very briefly saw um, Brent Dunshay on ITV. I wouldn't say they're sheepish, but there's no kind of like
Gloating. No,
celebration
no,
jig, is there?
no. Nor should there be.
If I was Brandon Shear now, I'd leave the BHA and I'd put all over my CV that I avoided the racing tax and just get a better paid job somewhere else and keep perpetuating the myth that this was a success. It's like the optimal time for him to leave now, from a perception to reality point of view. Yeah, I don't like it's horse racing is obviously seeing the effect of it's and I put, and it might be controversial to some, but it's more, bookmakers are now more reliant on products that make money because they make less money, and that's still not horse racing, lads, because the cost base is astronomical. You're now more reliant on
Well,
more reliant, and that's what I mean about the harmonization point, Harry. I know you're maybe being a bit glib and making a point there, saying that all horse racing could do it's perverse to people. It's counterintuitive, but it actually makes you now more reliant on the stuff that generates income. That
But they
still
weren't.
isn't
But they
horse
weren't.
racing.
They weren't campaigning to get remote gaming duty up from 21 to
I
40%.
agree with that, yeah. But
They were
they
campaigning
were
to
campaigning
stop
blindly to
their
the
part. I
ecosystem.
agree that it's a
Yeah.
Pyrrhic victory, but they haven't done what some people seem to think it's two sides of the same coin. If they look after the tax on themselves, they must therefore have been supporting. Have you? I mean,
I
no one
think
is more critical of
I know
horse
what you're
racing than
saying.
me, the
I know
place
what
where
you're
merit
saying.
goes to die. But they are not capable of influencing the treasury to the extent of this. I just think that we're learning. Of course, horse racing is going to, as we pointed out at the beginning of this, the fact that it's a tax on gross gambling yield is really important because it doesn't take account of costs. It's only thereafter that costs come into it on corporation tax. So what bookmakers anyone would do in these circumstances is try and hammer their costs down to try and retain profitability. There has been, it sounds like to me, what has been happening, and I think we all had our suspicions, is that the industry was relatively awash with money from casino products that was being used to support horse racing, and horse racing allowed that system to develop over the last 15 years. And wasn't competitive, but you know, all sorts of people got flabby on this. Why would people go, oh, the operators are paying too much for media rights agreements? Why? It's a negotiation process. They should be hammering the media rights suppliers and saying, no, this is far too much. We're not buying it. But because they had the money to do it, it appears they did. So everyone's been saying for years, wait a minute, where's the money going on prize money? The suggestion is it's disappearing into media rights groups who take the money out of racing.
Yeah, which is what
someone needs to do something. That's so obviously something someone's needed to do something about for a very long time.
For that to happen, that has to be led by a very big operator who just says enough is enough. Me turning off Plumpton,
completely agree.
It's completely irrelevant. It has to be led by a big operator.
Yeah.
And what big operators do is they benefit from economies of scale, so they'll be paying less than me anyway for a start.
Yeah.
But they just don't. It's a first mover disadvantage in the initial stages. And obviously you can't behave like a cartel, but there's no. It's the unwillingness to make that leap as the first person, I'd imagine, at a big operator. It might.
But maybe they will now. Maybe they have to now. Andy,
it might make a 365. A 365 doing something would be interesting. I know we talk about Flutter as well, but it's not. Media rights aren't the elephant in the room. They're the fucking spaceship that's just come through your front door window. Front window is what it is.
Yeah, but this is a bit like when families all over the country, when they see that budget come in, will be sitting down with their bank statements and going, "Oh my God, why are we all paying for Amazon Prime? Why are we all paying?" And they'll be looking through their accounts now, and that's what everyone needs to do now. And there are going to be a few people in dark corners looking slightly nervous, I suspect. Yeah. And I would have thought that the media rights owners are one of those people.
And I do half agree with what you were saying earlier, Harry, where you're saying that people got fat on XXX. That's absolutely fine. When you say that horse racing couldn't support casino, I'm not saying they should have done. And their only option was to have a carve out. For me, I just think it was very, very naive for their position not to factor in their own place in the ecosystem and the effect it was going to have on them. That's the point I'd make.
Well,
I think they just disregarded the ecosystem essentially. And
what would you be saying today if their tax on horse racing had gone up to 40%?
I think that was just not an option, though, was it?
No, but let's all right. Well,
that wouldn't have happened. So
all right, let's say all right, fine. Well, let's say it goes up to 25% this April, and it goes up in line with all other sports, and there is no carve out for it. Well, it's not in a better position, is it?
It depends. In the ecosystem, it probably would be. I haven't modeled it, but I'd imagine it. If everything went up to 25 or horse racing instead.
No. I'm not saying everything goes up to 25. I'm saying casino still goes up to 40 and racing goes up to 25 with other sports.
Obviously, that's a worse position.
Yeah, that's the point I make is these two things are mutually exclusive.
But should it?
The remote gaming duty and horse racing are mutually exclusive. They are not related in the way that people are making out.
100%.
You can have one or the other.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. But horse racing has asked for that carve out, which it's entitled to do, and I don't particularly disagree with that. But as part of that, the thing that's affecting it isn't the carve out. You could reduce horse racing tax to 5%. It's not going to make much difference because it's still you
that I completely agree with. I completely agree. But they can only do what they can do.
I know.
My worry.
I just think they had to go and say that this is why, and it's not even a friendly point of view. It's just an understanding of how it works point of view, that if you do this to casino, it affects us this way. I just don't think they've made that. They don't understand that connection well enough. I think it's just bad.
Anyway, I don't think I don't think I can't see an immediate way out of this hole because the antagonism between the BHA and the British Gaming Council with
Well,
kind
the
of like
antagonism between everyone and the British Gaming Betting
yes,
Gaming Council. I mean, they have gone tonto on Twitter.
I mean Michael Dugan, some of the stuff he's been coming out with is outrageous and
Let's deal with that now, Tony, because that's our kind of next main. Let's look at it. We've done the kind of racing side of it there. Let's look at kind of reflect back on the lobbying from the BGC's kind of side and the Gaming Council. I don't know if you guys caught Jim Boyle's thread on Twitter. It was kind of very critical of this side and Michael Dewar pointing out in specifically what we kind of how do we reflect on that now, Tony? How they've gone about their business here.
well, if the BHA have won in the short term, the Britain Gaming Council have spectacularly failed for their members, haven't they? By by getting this. Their public utterances aren't anyway convincing. On the Nick Luck Daily yesterday, Martin Cruddas was on there. He could have been asked a few more prodding questions than he did, but he was very, very scathing about Michael Dewar. Uh, he's what he was, so he's got no time for the kind of language that he was using on Twitter, and they've just been totally ineffective in whatever lobbying they did.
I mean,
Uh,
I think that you've got to ask now seriously. Remember, we were talking a few weeks ago about how they didn't put anyone up against Matt, our cousin,
yeah,
on that Sunday morning show. Looking back on that, we said at the time it was a dereliction of duty. Looking back on that, that was a mainstream audience. They're happy to go on to Nick Luck and talk to a whole lot of people who watch horse racing, but that was a mainstream audience in the run up to a budget and a government budget, national budget, and they wouldn't put anyone up for that. So I tell you what, if gambling companies now need to rethink some of their spending, I would think they want to get an awful lot more bang for their buck in terms of the way they lobby carrying on going forward.
yeah,
Yeah.
And let's bring in then that kind of side as well, the Social Market Foundation and how they've kind of lobbied and got through here, and the subsequent kind of comments yesterday. We caught Peter Savills' comment with regards to he was saying with the announcement of a significant rise in remote gaming duty on casino products, which enjoy year on growth. The government is now in a position to use the levy as an opportunity to provide more funds to the sport. The SMF and Plumpton Racecourse proposed an increase in levy funds from 10% to 20%, with a corresponding decrease in the betting duty take to 5%. You mentioned Matt Zarb Cousins' tweet as well, one of his many tweets yesterday, particularly galling to read. I'll just read it out. I know if I had a product that was taxed at 25% and one that was taxed at 40%, I would be more likely to promote the one taxed at 25%. You don't need to know anything about the industry to realize that. Just know the 40 is a bigger number
Now
than 25.
that is a brilliant tweet, as it just shows what a moron he is. Like an absolute moron. That is one of the most moronic tweets you'll ever read from a business perspective. Something that you make no money on gets taxed at 25%, and you'll promote that more than something you do make money on that gets taxed at 40%. Moron. Absolute moron.
get off that fence.
Moron.
It's just the kind of like the celebratory and jubilant nature of some of their comments and press releases.
Well, it's funny you say that. I rather thought they came across as rather defensive and upset. Really, that some of the tweeting doesn't. It's either they're
Shows you how
quite
personal it
different.
is to him.
Yeah, I think well, it is personal to him because he's had gambling harms issues himself. But yeah, I'm not sure. I wonder whether they were expecting a little bit more of a garlanding and perhaps less people going. I'm not sure this has worked out for anyone. So I wonder.
Like, just wait if you think it's not worked out now. Didn't have Matt Zarb directing people to fob teas in betting shops after the result of this, but apparently that's where we need to go. Apparently for the higher value now. Just honestly, and then you've got like Noise and whatever Savile with the hands out again. Interestingly, plumped and immediately losing any sponsorship from their track essentially as well. Yeah, I think the chickens will come home to roost. I think also I think in the one good thing about this, apart from if you do survive, that there's going to be less competition, and your marketing costs are going to go down because that's going to be decimated. One of the good things is that this just didn't happen incrementally, and then there's loads of more uncertainty over what is probably going to be another at least 3 more years of this label up. This is a fairly just big whack. It's a fucking bullet to the fucking temple, done in as good as done in one go, I'd imagine. And I think also it might be SMF's time. It feels like the peak here now, and the consequences will be when we see the trough as well. I can't imagine they'll be listened to. They probably might have 6 or 12 months left of being listened to, but when the consequences of some of this stuff actually start filtering through, I think they'll become less relevant.
Yeah, that's quite possible. If this backfires, if there's, for example, a very obvious explosion in black market and problem gambling, they are gonna come out of this with egg on their faces.
James Noyes can go back to taxidermy or whatever it is he's got his degree in.
Taxidermy.
He's got some random.
That's what he's trying to do to the gambling industry.
Yeah, he's definitely stuffed the name, hasn't he?
Yeah. He's got Jeff Hack's head on his wall. Yeah.
I think he's a theologian, isn't he? I may have made that up.
I don't know what he is, but he's yeah, that might be right actually. Yeah.
Theologian and taxidermy. Quite a leap.
It's some nonsense anyway.
Yeah. You're still in shock.
Well, apologies there. I think I called Thomas Saville Peter Saville in when I was
it could have been worse.
Definitely could have been worse. Definitely could have been worse. Let's move on. Let's move on, lads, to the kind of smaller independents and what it means for them. I think we've had comments from the likes of Macbeth and Bet Goodwin. Julian Head from Bet Goodwin was on Nick Luck Daily. He was kind of letting on that he was betrayed by racing or feeling betrayed by racing, along with saying all the other stuff that he was pulling sponsorship at various courses, Plumpton included, I think. How do we feel like that? What's going to happen here with the kind of the smaller independents? AK.
Julian, I thought spoken really well, just at various times in the last month or two, just on the effects on him, on his business, and what he predicts is going to happen. It's interesting. We just referenced the moronic Matt Zarb tweet there about promoting something with 25%, just disregarding any profits that are made on different ratios of products. And he said, and his conclusion was, obviously you'll promote the thing that's 25%. Well, from the horse's mouth, Julian's mouth, same independently comes to the same conclusion as us, that it will literally roll back on everything horse racing related, from sponsorship to promotion to any specials, and it'll be all put into sports and casino, which is literally the same independent conclusion we've come to, and I think other bookmakers will come to as well. This is not a win for horse racing. It's a big loss, and I think that is borne out by his comments. I thought he spoke very well and just basically laid it out accurately. And I think we can stop calling it scaremongering now, because it's in progress. It's happening.
I'd be very interesting to see how it actually transpires on the sponsorship side in the big firms, because they'll have massive marketing teams, and these marketing teams are probably going to have to kind of like justify their job, so they're going to go out there and try to make the case for it. Now, anybody who's had any dealings with marketing teams and sponsorship teams, there is no business case for them that I've seen, no convincing one anyway. And now they're going to have to go out there and really kind of like justify themselves. So I'm not sure that the big firms are going to absolutely just kind of like just slash everything. The small firms like Bet Goodwin and other firms pretty much have to. But yeah, I'm pretty skeptical about if there's going to be a complete cull at the top end of the likes of Entain, 365, etc. Flutter are already just downgraded massively anyway.
Mate,
before this.
it's Hills. It's Hills that's the big not worry, but I think Hills are going to be by far, or Evoke PLC or whatever they're called. They're going to be hit very hard. I'm actually even just looking at it on my phone at the moment. I feel like I'm in the big short watching Bear Stearns stock price here, sat in a meeting. It's absolutely tanking through the floor. It's 26.
What today live now?
Yeah, Hills' market cap, the whole combined group of every single brand attached to it, the market cap is now oh, it's actually just gone down another 4p there in the last 2
What
seconds.
do you think the market? What do you think the market has decided today that it didn't?
The market cap is now
decided
below
yesterday.
Sorry, the market cap is now below 132 million. I don't know the specific numbers of them, but what is the payroll over a year there? Like the market cap seems very, very low for a group of that size.
Their ambassadors would probably get half of that. Yeah. There's so many of them.
But I tweeted the other day, just the first thing is that when I heard the report was this is going to affect Hills more than anybody. I'll try and find that they're just in a.
Why do you say that, AK? Why Hills more than anyone? Just
because they're just in a heap of debt. If you look at the balance sheets of the other big groups, they're just not in a heap of debt.
Right.
They always struggle to, and they have recently struggled to make money as a group, just full stop anyway.
So it's not so much that they're particularly exposed to casino business more than anyone else. It's their debt. You think
it's the debt and how tight they are anyway. I think like they've in UK retail, they've still got a load of shops. I can't imagine them being too performing. Probably some online stuff helping to not subsidize them, but just make it actually worthwhile. We saw that they closed 10 or 12 different jurisdictions in Africa last week. They'll be fully gone by the start of December. They're very, very affiliate heavy. If every trainer, every jockey, every representative under the sun, so let's see where that sits in a year's time. The product's just okay. It's for a very big group. It's for me, own personal opinion here, it's the worst product of all the big groups, and they just don't really have a USA business, which is kind of propping up a lot of the interns and flutters in this thing. They just have no USA business of any note. Just the fundamentals are just poor. I think really, really poor. And I just tweeted it as soon as I saw the numbers that it's going to affect them a lot more.
Essentially, you're just saying they're worse positioned financially to take on and structurally to take on extra costs. Yeah.
The market cap is now lower than what it was at the absolute foot of COVID, I believe. Like it's low. It's very, very low, and it doesn't take much, I would imagine, from here for it to be a really, really, really big problem.
I'd say we've got one at the end of my road, which is if it's got 2 people in it, it's busy. It's it's astonishing how it stays open.
Yeah, it's just more products and just the debt. I think the debt is just their numbers with that 888 merger were just absolutely astronomical for just didn't look like a good deal at all. And the people that made that deal have essentially disappeared. You'd worry for them. And like I'm not being glib about this, but there's like all of these things obviously affect jobs. They're going to affect jobs in various different bookmakers. Some bookmakers aren't going to survive. It's just it's slightly worrying. I think. I think the flutters and the interns might end up having a slightly bigger share of a smaller pie soon over here.
Sorry, can we maybe just go back down to the betting shops? I know we talked about this already enough, I suppose, but just in particular the FOBTs, does this make them more attractive in any way, lads? And we also need to just mention as well the racing partnership up their betting shop fees from 31% to 22k per shop. And we have that in a question later as well, which is another thing to consider for betting shops on that side.
Yeah, nothing much to add to what I said earlier on this actually. The betting shops have come out of this as well as they could have done. But like I said, if the likes of the racing partnership are upping fees 31% year on year, then
it's the same as
you do fear.
Yeah, you'd worry.
I think that's got to come under. I'm sorry to repeat myself, but that's got to come under considerable strain. That now, hasn't it? That people are just going to pay those fees because that's what they cost.
I think you're going to get in the next few years a lot more bookmakers that just have everything but horse racing on them online. And it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of shops go back to, you can maybe still have bets, but you just don't have pictures and you have commentary. It's like we're going back in time here, because they're just
Yeah, I mean, like it'd be
economics
great.
is
We go back
broken.
to the Exeter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if that happens soon. Some shops just say we can't pay this. And they have two options. You've the option to close a shop, and then they have the option to try and get going
But
with
that won't
this.
work. That won't work because then there's no income stream for operators for race courses, and so they can't put on races. It's not something is going, either it collapses under its own weight or something has got to give.
Yeah, I think they've just pushed this way too far, and just the economics, just to my eye, just don't add up anymore.
But I think the problem is they possibly already didn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just my gut feeling is shrinkage everywhere, and racing being a good part of
Our next kind of way we were going to look at it was the media rights money. Is that the way bookmakers get something back from rate? I know it's nearly impossible to imagine or whatever, some sort of negotiation going on there. But is that the way somehow racing or bookmakers get something back out of racing that makes it somewhat more palatable?
As someone said on Twitter the other day, never has the
Maybe only
term
take our
commercially confidential been so important. We don't know because we just don't know what's happening with commercial, with media rights payments and what's going and what goes where and how much of it's being taken out of the sport. But it's got to be a market. I mean, I appreciate it's an odd market because you've got very few suppliers and very few buyers, but they can't just carry on with people overpaying for them and not knowing what's happening with the money.
No.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's going to take a brave. It's going to take a brave big
Or
boy.
as Mick McCarthy would say, it can. Yeah.
He got sacked the next week though.
And what about the likes of Skybet? We discussed them last week and their offshore kind of going that way. How insulated would they be from this, do you think, AK?
No, they're not really. It's just they'll still take a big hit. It's just how they're restructuring some of the other costs. They're still paying that tax. They're still paying that 40p. This comes down to changing the ratio of the other 60, I'd say. When we're saying it's probably going to go down to single digits, it's people move abroad to.
Yeah, that's
It's a VAT question usually.
Yeah, the reason why I wanted that answered is because again, people just think, oh, they've moved offshore, therefore the 21 to 40% doesn't affect them. That's not true, no.
No, not at all. No, they obviously get charged that they're moving. Like I don't want to speak out of turn and have Harry panicking here now, but it seemed from myself reading that Dan Needle article that this was linked to VAT and corporation tax, which just sit outside that 40% remote gaming duty.
Yes, I think that's right.
So I did well on learning, Harry.
To put a cap
There's
on
still time.
Yeah, there's still lots to go here. To put a cap on it, though, I guess a lot of people who are watching or listening to this will be punters. Can we just put it in black and white terms or define it as much? How is their day-to-day punting life going to be affected as such? What are they going to go through?
Like for me, my job is to offer some of the best prices in the legal market. That's what my competition is. My fellow legal bookmakers that have similar cost basis to me. Some might benefit from more economies of scale. I might benefit from some independence because I might have slightly better commercials that I've done myself. My competition is other legalized sports books in the jurisdiction. I think, and I'll try and be as honest as possible, I think on our site, your prices are going to get slightly worse over time. That's just me being honest with people. But I think in relation to my competition in the legal market, there'll still be some of the best prices, and that's all I can do essentially. So I don't think it's a win. It's a relative win to my competition in the legal market, but it's not a win for customers essentially. And we're trying to we try and be as fair as possible. Like we try and not take the absolute mick with prices essentially, and try and lay bets that aren't out of date. And that's essentially it. And we're not a huge operation. We employ about 25 people, and we've built it up from the ground, and we're real proud of it. But the cost base is the cost base. You can have, if I built the sports book that I want to build under these conditions, I'd go bankrupt very, very quickly. So I have to adapt to the conditions of the market. Essentially, I'm not building the sports book that I want to build at the moment. Because I won't survive. And that's what every bookmaker is going through. It's a best fit sports book for the conditions that we endure, essentially. I've just got to make sure.
One question, AK, just on that subject, we've all talked about how we've been contacted by people quite high up within the industry going, I'm absolutely flabbergasted by this. And we've all kind of said we're slightly amazed that they're flabbergasted by this, given the nature of the debate. But do you think that everyone actually has a plan for this? Do you think everyone is ready to go with what they're going to do next? Or do you think they're now all charging around trying to work it out?
I think people should be disappointed if they didn't have a plan. You hear in the bigger groups talk about mitigating plans for different rates and stuff. I must admit, 40% was just probably right at the tail of the spectrum of bad outcomes that I saw, basically. On the morning, I would have made it probably a small double-figure price. Like I didn't think it was going to be that high because I just can see the catastrophic damage that it's going to cause. People were asking me internally here on the morning of, and I said, listen, I'd probably have to take 30% now. If 30% would probably feel like a win, we'd have to do a few bits and pieces and to mitigate certain things, but 30% we could probably absorb it and not massively affect margin that customers receive. 35 would have been bloody bad. I think 40%, these sound like small numbers to people that just aren't in the granularity of all the numbers and all the different bits and pieces coming in and out of a site, which line item wise would be three hundreds of different line items essentially to have a functioning website. 40% absolutely is right at the end of that spectrum of this is bad. And if you are operating a sportsbook at the moment and you don't have much movement or much room in your profitability, you're essentially, sorry, I know I try not to swear, but you're fucked. Like if you're not making much money now, you're absolutely fucked. That's it.
I did not know that you try not to swear.
Yeah, but
you try not to swear, and you just teed yourself up for it.
No, but yeah, it's probably as bad as it could have got from that point of view, and I think you're just going to see shrinkage in the market from a competition perspective, and it's just going to inevitably affect margin. It's just inevitable.
But the margin, I think, a lot of people are price insensitive, aren't they? So I don't think that's going to be a big issue for most people. But
they are more on sports, Tony, but on casino, whether you like it or not. If you do any SEO marketing or you do any I can't think what it's called, click to something marketing or affiliate marketing, if people sign up to it and you might not like it, I don't play casino, as I've said many times. I've been to Vegas 7 times and I won't play roulette or won't play in the casino. It does not appeal to me in the slightest. But the people who it does appeal to, who are considerable in number in the legal market, they search for, via Google search engines, they search for free spins, they search for sign-up offers. Those things aren't going to happen in the legal market. They're going to be much contracted. And my point is, if you're signing up and you're searching for this stuff in Google or other search engines, they're the keywords that you're searching for. And you're going to get driven outside of the legal market. And I think that's really bad from a tax yield perspective, from a viability of industry perspective, from a viability of horse racing perspective, and quite importantly, which I thought this whole debate was about, but has migrated away from a problem gambling perspective. It's bad. It's really bad.
Yeah. Just very quickly, shrinkage of the market and the options available by bookmakers is my main concern because, so many people I know have just got one account, and if that just like bites the dust, where do they go? Do they go to that black market?
Yeah, I think
I personally wouldn't, but
yeah,
as we've seen, plenty of people would.
I think we look at it different. We're probably, even myself, my social circles, just because of my background and my industry background and stuff, we associate more in price sensitive circles. One thing about having a website and seeing, or even working for a bookmaker, you see what is important to people, and price tends not to be. You're talking there in the example, you have one or two betting accounts. I haven't got any betting accounts left, obviously, in my own name. Just haven't had them for a very long time. That's just not what is happening in the market with the general market at the moment. I think affordability and stuff like that has actually made people have a lot more betting accounts than they probably even want, because there's a lot more natural churn because of affordability over everything else, in my opinion.
Not if they've all been shut.
Well, that's where you get the churn essentially. Yeah, I don't know.
I just can't be bothered asking other people all the time and just try to, get your other half to open it up, etc., etc. I'm just done with that. If it ends, it ends.
Yeah.
Anyway,
We leave it there, lads, and just kick on with a few more, just a few other topics, other things to talk about this week, surprisingly. But we're under a bit of time pressure, so we'll move through these as quickly as we can. And Tony, do you want to mention there was a bit of a debacle at Sunderland? Greyhounds traps issue there. I didn't see it myself, but it happened twice, once on Friday and again on Tuesday. So not a good look for the sport.
no, Arc Track Sunderland, absolutely horrific pictures of greyhounds getting caught in the traps. A lot of traps not opening. Those that did open, the greyhounds were getting their legs caught, struggling to get free. It looked absolutely horrendous. Now, I mean, I don't really kind of like look about, the animal rising reaction or whatever, but that is just as bad as an advert for greyhound racing as there possibly could be.
Well, even if it's not a bad, it shouldn't happen anyway. Whether it's a bad advert for greyhound racing or not, that just shouldn't happen.
I think it's obviously looks horrendous. I think from my memory, a few years ago, from speaking to someone who was racing manager at a dog track, they always struggled to get traps fixed, or whatever the company was. There was two different types of traps, I think. And whatever one of the company, like the companies just weren't making new traps. Like it was like an industry that had disappeared essentially. Even when stuff broke, they couldn't get new traps from anywhere essentially. I don't know. I think there's probably a lot of, you can talk about the ground as well, and the tracks at surfaces and ground racing as well. Like I think they have to get that stuff right. They have to get that stuff right, because visually that was fairly appalling stuff, without knowing the specifics of whether they switched back in the traps from the previous week where I think something similar happened. It's absolute catnip for the antis, that stuff, and you've got to give them absolutely, especially in that world, more so even than horse racing, you've got to give them no excuse to be on your case essentially.
Yeah, we'll just read out a couple of quick stories here, lads. We don't really need to spend huge time on, but just to kind of paint this is a pre-budget story with regards to racing's kind of financial position, with regards to decline of online betting turnover. I'll just read this out. So the financial straits facing British racing ahead of the autumn budget have been laid bare after the Gambling Commission statistics revealed a 6% year-on-year decline in betting turnover on the sport. I think we've discussed this lots on the podcast before, lads. No surprise really, but online betting turnover on the sports fell between 7.88 billion between April 2024 and March 2025, down from 8.37 billion in the previous year, and a drop of more than 2 billion from the 10 billion between 2021 and 2022. So not exactly a great picture there, even before anything came out from the budget. We also had a verdict reached, obviously, in the Dylan Kitts, John Higgins case. So John Higgins and Dylan Kitts, who conspired to deliberately prevent Hilson from winning in July 23, have been banned from racing for 12 years and 9 years, respectively. Trainer Chris Honor, who was judged not to be part of the conspiracy, but was found to have misled stewards after the conditional jockey's handicap hurdle, had been fined 750 and we'll move on from there as well. But if anyone wanted to have a look more on that, there's a little clip IrishRacing.com put up with Paddy Flood was just talking about how jockeys get approached by people like this to with regards to stopping horses. Well worth your time watching if you find that on X. He talked about a anecdotal story he had himself of some fella trying to ring him up to organise something. So he wanted to catch that. And then we'll deal with the Devon trainer Joe Tickle, who was hit with suspension after a fine after his horse test positive for an antidepressant. So trainer Joe Tickle has been hit with a 2-year suspension of his license, suspended for 24 months, and a £1,000 fine after one of his horses tested positive for the banned substance. I'm not even going to try and pronounce what that is. But the breach was found to be the result of a cross contamination from a staff member and amateur rider who had taken the prescribed medication as an antidepressant. The case relates to a positive test which had no performance enhancing aspect. Returned on the horse Danny after that 8-year-old finished fourth, 22 to 1 in a handicap hurdle June last year. Tickle can continue to train, accepted there had been a breach, and believes the outcome of the closed plea agreement hearing was fair. We had a question from Andy Corbett on this. Should trainers stop people who are on antidepressants from going near their horses? Joe Tickle has received a ridiculous punishment for doing absolutely nothing wrong. Harry, what did you have much of an insight to this?
I continue to think these rules are really unfair on trainers, and I think a 2-year suspended penalty is extraordinary in these circumstances. It's not a performance enhancing drug. They appear to have worked. We don't have the written decisions, I should say. I've just read a report of it. I think it's crazy. The one thing I do think this ties back into what we were talking about in the funding and racing, which is that the regulatory burden for participants gets bigger and bigger every year. They are on the breadline, a lot of trainers. If this is going to have the huge impact on racing that we think it is, it's going to have an impact on welfare and on integrity in the sport as well. And the BHE needs to start thinking about where its priorities lie and whether hammering a trainer like this for cross contamination for a perfectly sounds like a perfectly allowable drug taken by a staff member does seem completely over the top in the big scheme of things to me.
I think there'd be more people embracing taking antidepressants after Wednesday
Yeah.
than it's that fine was far more than the likes of Ed Dunlop got. From memory, I think Ed Dunlop got a year suspended for effectively the same
I
treatment.
think they do it on the basis of what the extent to which your processes weren't up to scratch to try and stop it.
Right. Okay.
Also, you get an allowance for being a classic winning trainer as well. That was a joke. Tickle's a great name, isn't it? What a great name.
Headline dream that Tickle gets
Tickle.
slapped, etc. Yeah.
Let's do the question section, lads, and we'll finish it out. So, with only one Premier League, this question from Bree Mac, with only one Premier League game on Boxing Day, that's St. Stephen's Day for this part of the world. Just on our Irish viewers and myself included, it'll probably. Will we see a conscious effort to maximise the sport from Kempton on ITV? It's a perfect chance to showcase national hunt, Tony.
You'd hope so, wouldn't you? Is there any other Irish stuff that goes on St. Stephen's Day apart from Premier League, no?
You might get a rugby match, you might get like a Leinster Munster game sometimes, but nothing.
What do you do to really highlight it? Do you just turn all the microphones up and make everything a bit louder? I mean, what is it that they can actually do to highlight? Surely they're trying to highlight it anyway.
Yeah,
I suppose the way they market it, perhaps.
Yeah, they should do. They should make as much of it as possible. Yes.
Yeah, Morecambe are playing Rochdale as well, lads. So you never know. Lose a bit of market share there, I'd say, from the audience.
Question from Stuart Ackister. Is it time the big bookmakers showed some solidarity towards smaller/independent bookmakers and made a stand about media rights payments for racing, Harry?
I mean, we've probably done this to death. I think there is a rumor. There's always been a rumor that there is differentials in pricing paid by different bookmakers and different sizes of bookmaker. I'm not quite sure what the question is getting at, whether it's getting at that or whether it's saying that they should come in and renegotiate for the, properly and perhaps for the first time. But yeah, I think we've probably covered that really.
I think he was getting at renegotiate as one collective
Yeah.
body. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think they should. I mean, I think, as I say, the only explanation for them not having done that so far is that they didn't feel they needed to.
Yeah, I see. As lovely as that would be, as Mr. Very Small Independent Bookmaker, I'd imagine that Floyd would rather stamp on our throats than help us, and I also don't blame them for it as well. It's just natural. So yeah, I don't know.
Hold your breath, I suppose. Raymond, our weekly low sun question comes from Raymond this week. So a break from the budget, but can we look at low sun, which is wreaking havoc with jumps racing this season and for the last few years? Races having over half the obstacles removed is unsatisfactory for the punter and seems a new phenomenon when I am sure the sun has always been the same. Tony.
But it's not new, isn't it? Because we've been getting a weekly question on this for the last 18 months. There's nothing you can do.
No,
it all comes down to health and safety.
and if the jockeys themselves support it,
Yeah.
they're not going to say no. You can see in a million years.
If I was a jockey, I'd want to jump as few fences and hurdles as possible anyway.
Yeah. So with the horse, I think in those circumstances, Tony.
Yeah, we might leave it there for the low sun questions from here on in, lads, and maybe until another next month we can do another one. Question from Cutting Comment. The 2025 budget created a strange incentive. Retail betting shops and horse racing stay at 15% tax, but online gaming jumps to 40%. That should make the high street suddenly profitable again, but the industry isn't talking about rebuilding retail. They're just cutting customer value and blaming the black market. So the real question is, why is the industry ignoring the tax code's signal to compete on product quality instead of just squeezing margins? Does that tell us the industry has become too concentrated to pivot or too extractive to care? A lot to unpack there, AK. Do you understand what he's getting at?
Yeah, I just think he's approaching it the wrong way, to be honest with you. Why would you focus on a decline in industry rather than one that's growing? Essentially, retail is just cash and old people. Essentially, both don't have huge life expectancies. It's like increasing the tax on cars and then wondering why people don't go back to horses and carts like in the street. It's just not going to go that way at all. It's not how people bet. It's not how they want to bet. And you could open the most perfect retail space with all your nice fancy screens, and there'd be nobody in them. It's just like time has moved on, and so that's why they don't focus on retail. And like, there's a lot of people with opinions about what people should do around margin on retail and stuff like that. And what I say is, it's a free market, and somebody get a few quid together and have a go. If you think everything's being done wrong, surely you've got an unbelievable opportunity here. The reason it's not being done, I think, is because most people with the cash have come to the conclusion that it's not a good idea. But there's not many barriers to entry, bar a few quid to start up. So if you think anything's being done wrong, people can always get a bookmaking license and have a go, I suppose.
Very easy to get a bookmaking license, not that easy to keep them.
Yes.
In the UK.
In the UK, yeah. I don't think it's that easy to get one.
No, they are. They're remarkably easy to get because of this. Don't go on with it, but the aim to permit.
Yes. We'll move it on there, lads. Ride Runner is asking, when Spinning Mick says he's gone to the machine to lay one, are these bets now subject to tax as it's no longer an in-person bet? AK, do you want to take that?
Who's Spinning Mick, sorry?
I don't know. Tony, is that a person or a well-known person or something?
I think that's Michael Cannon. I think that's his nickname, I think.
Is it?
Sorry, Michael, but if it is. it's him.
If he's
It
got
is
the
now.
machine to lay one, he should stay at home. Stay at home, Mick. Spin into the kitchen and make yourself a cup of tea. You'll save on the X's.
What was the question again, Ronan?
When Spinning Mick says he's gone to the machine to lay one, that's in inverted commas, are these bets now subject to tax as it's no longer an in-person bet? I presume so.
I think they've always have been, haven't they?
Yeah.
We were just on that when we were talking about it in the office there. What if when someone has a racing multi with a football selection? Is that
Well, this is what I don't know. I suppose there's no meat on this stuff. Yeah, I suppose from whatever date it is in 2027, with plenty of time to work it out. I suppose, but if
Yeah, it's going to be an accounting nightmare, that, isn't it?
it's
Having
going to
to
be an
work out
unbelievable nightmare. What happens if someone has a six-fold with one horse and six football teams? What the other way around?
I suppose you have to treat them as individual bets, do you?
How are we cutting up those bets? Like,
Yeah.
fucking hell, lucky 15s. Don't have any bloody Goliaths with us. Each way Goliath with multiple sports, please. I can't be bothered. I'll just pay all the tax if you like. Yeah, no, it's just.
I'm going to have a roulette multiple. 33, 36 cross doubles.
Yeah. And then some bingo.
Oh,
And,
yeah, we didn't mention bingo's been.
Oh yeah,
They're the big
That's
winners.
a weird one,
Bingo.
isn't it? Yeah.
it's so weird. Of all the things you didn't expect, that's got to be right up there.
Yeah.
Bingo 0.
Mum must play bingo. Must.
Yes.
Did we see the rank group statement, by the way, on speaking of bingo or Mecca or whatever they're called, the rank group? They were saying that this year they made 223 million or something in profit. 100 might have been 233. I can't remember what the exact number was. They paid 188 million in tax and made 45 million. And under those same conditions, from next year, they wouldn't make any money and would pay 233 million in tax.
Bloody hell.
Fucking hell. Like, sorry, I'm trying not to swear.
Pivot to bingo pretty hard.
Yeah. It's just mad. I think that just shows how, I don't know. And then where do you want? Yeah, I don't know. I can't be bothered talking about it. Go on.
I just realised my missed opportunity with the introduction. I should have just started calling out bingo numbers and said, "Welcome to the AK Bingo Racing." I'm just putting it out there. Last question, lads. One from Martin: Is it as expensive to show overseas racing, so from the likes of France, South Africa, in shops, as it is to show UK and Irish racing? Any chance of pushing racing punters towards less expensive products of similar nature to UK Irish racing if it was cheaper? I think Tony, you asked about this on X, and did you get any reply or any
I
insight
got a
there?
DM from somebody. He said, "Don't mention my name," so I won't. He said, "One, margins are much higher for international, less through punters, less inside info, less offers. Two, costs are about the same. Excluding that, levy is essentially paid to international racing through media rights. Net more profitable due to point one."
Yeah, all of that's correct. I think I said it on this podcast. I definitely would have said it on Twitter at some stage, but I'm pretty sure I said it on this podcast that raising taxes in this budget was going to turn UK and Irish racing into international racing, essentially. And by that, I meant much higher margin, essentially. International racing tends to be higher margin just per se. And that is what we've created with it's basically just UK and Irish racing is now going the way of greyhounds and international racing.
I remember when at the Racing Post when it used to be frozen off in the winter, we used to have trotting from Sterrebeek. That was a good one.
All right.
We'll leave it there, gents. Thanks very much. Before we go, I'd say the usual, although it's not Monday, it's Friday, I have to tell myself. So we're looking ahead to a cracking weekend of racing and football. Besides, Tony has working away on his pieces there, updating all the time. Cracking race, obviously, tomorrow in Newcastle at 2 o'clock with Constitution Hill taking on the New Line. And Amsterdam over for Willie Mullins, and obviously the Coral Gold Cup, and then a couple of great ones at Fairyhouse on Sunday, which I'll hope to be writing about myself. tomorrow if I get a chance, and obviously all the football besides. So do check that out on the AK Bets Big Prices tab. So I'll just say thank you for all the questions. Thanks for everyone for listening and watching. And thanks to the lads for their contributions. We'll see you on Monday week. Cheers.